war just against that.
All right. Alrighty, finish the definition that you are writing out right now and then shut your devices. We'll carry on again when everyone's devices are shut. And I want to come up with a three-class definition of war.
Yeah.
But I'll wait until everyone's devices are shut.
Does it mean like shot like this? That's how far I'll go. Give a shit. That's crazy. Wait, are you from Iran?
Right now I want devices shut.
I'm from
Once
Iran.
you finish,
Yeah, I'm from
Or not finish your three definitions.
Oh,
Screw
nice.
that. But if you're like midway through your sentence, just shut the laptop.
Give me one more.
I can.
One more. Stop. I want to find one that I
All right.
agree with.
While everyone else is finishing off, can anyone give me a feature of every definition they read about, even if it's not the exact same words? And it can be what we've already talked about, but is there anything you think has to be in the definition? Conflict or fighting. Does anyone not agree? Conflict or fighting. Okay. Now, a few questions, because it's important to get this accurate. Does this have to be physical?
Yes.
Or can it be verbal fighting? Can be verbal? A war? Okay. So think about the Cold War.
I think it's other.
Yeah, but I want to get this on either side. So think about whether war has to be physical conflict and fighting, or whether it can be something like, or what about cyber warfare?
That's the yeah.
There's no physical fighting, it's hacking and stuff. Is that still war?
Yeah.
What about biological warfare using chemicals and stuff like that?
One more thing.
That could be physical as well.
We can do. Alrighty, we'll get the last few devices down, please. So, Smith, Wilson, Anwell, Francesca.
What do you mean?
Wilson, let's go.
What do you want?
Hands up if you think it has to be like physical conflict or fighting. No. Okay.
Can't.
There's one exception.
So
just
not
can't.
necessarily physical or armed.
But in
What do I mean?
most wars, that
Yeah.
probably will get aspects.
What do I mean by armed?
With weapons.
Yeah, yeah.
But technically, like online viruses and stuff could still be like harmed.
Yeah, that's still
Okay.
weapons.
So I think weaponry is a better word.
Can someone, my Cold War knowledge isn't great, can someone just explain to me what the conflict or fighting was in the Cold War? If you're calling it a war. Yeah, so what was the conflict or the fighting? Catherine?
America and the West, they were attacking everything, and then the Soviets went for communism. The US wanted to stop and spread the communism, so that was the political ideology was the biggest concern. And
So we're calling this a war, and we're saying everyone's agreed that conflict or fighting is a necessary feature of our definition of war. What was the conflict or the fighting in the Cold War? That's what I'm saying.
It did happen, just when like none of people expected it.
What was it?
So using let's call them how do you call puppy states? No, wait. Proxy states. Like several little wars, Vietnam, Korea, that spread everywhere. Even in Greece, I'm pretty sure the US intervened to stop a communist party from overthrowing. It's full of them. It's full of them.
Okay. Those
It's
are
not direct, indirect, but still there.
okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, I was just gonna say the conflict between the
But lots of countries have disagreements about political ideology. Would you say they're at war?
Using techniques knowledge, the actual ideology, political ideologies sprung out of war for the purpose to be, initiated. So the actual causes of political side.
Okay. Accept that. I'm still not entirely clear on what you're saying war has to involve conflict or fighting. We've got proxy stuff.
Action taken, like
What action was taken?
like in the Cold War.
1244.
Like French, they actively tried to intervene from.
Okay, okay. Okay. All right. Are we all happy with this first part of our definition? A war is conflict or fighting. Okay. Have a read through your other definitions. Have we got anything else that has to be in ours? Kevin?
The definition that says war is a phenomenon of organized collective violence and affects either the relations between two or more societies or the power of it.
Okay. Hands up if you had something about two or more something in at least one or two of the definitions, yeah? Okay. How do we want to word that? Two or more. Do we want to stick with organised groups? Is the word organised too much of a narrow requirement? Maybe they're not organised. Do they have to be organised?
No, bro.
No, yes.
Your mom has to be organized. Put into places, put into pieces.
Who found a definition
No,
that they
no.
liked the wording of how the groups were described?
Gilmore. Bro, it's not yours. I'm talking about hers. If you've got,
That's pretty much it.
I think it needs to be organized.
Let's use groups maybe.
Yeah, they said four different groups.
Your mom is
Okay.
fine.
So,
Two more different groups, right?
Damn. You want my mom to fuck you?
Same thing.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
If we say two or more groups, we're not being too broad in some way. We think they genuinely can be two or more groups of people, so that we don't have any more. Maybe.
The only nation that which waged war against that.
Okay. If we said this, does it cover it? A war is conflict or fighting, in brackets, not necessarily physical or armed,
That's crazy.
between two or more groups. Does that cover what a war is? Okay, so let's say you've got two different like friendship groups at school and they're fighting with each other on social media. That's a war. What do you mean no? I've literally just matched the definition. Does that mean there's something missing from our definition?
Scale.
Something with scale. Okay, Sarah? Okay, so either reason or purpose or scale. Purpose. So
But they all share the same purpose for friend groups, so it would still fit in the definition. It could be like.
what's missing from our definition that means it's capturing verbal fighting between two friendship groups?
Then this definition that I have, I think makes sense, because it says, countries or groups within a country, rather than just like saying multiple
They're
groups.
groups within a country. Two friendship groups are plenty within Australia.
Australia.
maybe like it's led by some.
Australia's great.
Authority.
Okay. Does it have to be? We wouldn't be leaving anything out if we said that. Led by,
Dripping off the logic upside down.
are we happy to say that is what? Does that fit with, like if I say to you, two friendship groups that go maybe fighting on social media is a war? Does that make you feel a bit, oh, no, it's not.
It's not physical.
Well, didn't we just say
It
it's not
makes sense,
physical? We just said that. When we agreed.
It's like not organized,
So no.
like an organized.
Organized groups. Okay, so that's, so We like organised, are we back on the organised train?
Defined as like physical,
Bro, I don't even know what's going on.
Bro.
I don't even know what's going on. I hear some people yelling shit. Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess
Are you
first
good?
thing is something on this good as well.
Right?
So this
I mean,
is a war.
Give me a second.
Still think you're capturing very light, like what is it that distinguishes what we think of as a war from like little friendly group things? Is it the purpose? Does war have to have a political purpose?
No. For resources, land.
Okay,
I mean, it's the game.
gain
I don't know how
something.
to finish.
Also religion.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's probably recruiting other people. For example, me can have a fight, it's not really a war. But then if my side and my friend group and Kevin's friend group, then it becomes a war.
But you still constantly calling that a war?
But then that means it
That's kind of civil.
That's crazy.
Yes, I don't think it's a war.
It's size and
That's more
structure.
like a group.
Okay, so clearly our intuition is
Whoa,
telling us
what's
that that is
bro?
a
Chill
war.
out.
So we're
not that
clearly
deep, it's just
missing
war.
something from our
No one's
definition.
gonna die.
Maybe it's a lethal weapon. It doesn't have to be lethal. Hostility.
That could be hostile.
Okay, we have a problem. We have a problem. I've waged war several times.
And the like flies, might be quite a lot on the like
Are they both trying to do genocide against each other? And they're both it's a war? They're both. Okay, does anyone think, and did anyone see in their definition,
Sneaky, right?
that it's something to do with scale? Does it have to go for a certain length of time?
Yes, actually.
It does?
Yep.
What you got?
It's open or declared armed hostile conflict between states or nations, and then I didn't manage to write for it was a magnitude of time. Remember? Wait, me and Hamza saw it too.
A conflict between political groups involving hostilities of considerable duration and magnitude.
Considerable duration and magnitude. Okay, adding that in would then get rid of the friendship drama, but it's vague. Like considerable duration and magnitude. Like who is to say what is a considerable duration or considerable magnitude? So that means like, you know, how serious, how big it is. But do we feel like something like that needs to be in the definition to separate a war from something more minor? Maybe. Now, interestingly, that said open or declared.
Yeah, that's what I have that in mind.
Yeah, but we agreed before that war doesn't necessarily need an official declaration. So do we want to revisit that based on what we've read?
Two of my definitions say, like, they start with a state.
Oh, the state.
So is war the actual state or is war the conflict? It's being.
When you say a state, you're not using the fancy word for country, you're meaning
No,
a
like
state.
the situation. Like my first one is a state of armed conflict, and my third one is a state of declared armed hostility.
It's being in
That's
war.
really interesting though that your definitions are saying that it has to be armed, when we said before.
But then, like for example, the cyber warfare, like online weaponry can still be considered to be armed.
Okay.
So I think physical weaponry would be a better way to.
Yeah, armed.
Okay.
My definition is not armed.
Okay, hands up if pretty much all your definitions use the word armed.
Oh,
Ah,
Totally.
all right. Okay. So, all right, that would actually get rid of the friendship drama then, unless they're going and like arming themselves with some kind of weapons. But we're saying not necessarily physical though.
Yeah.
Like you can arm yourselves in other ways. Okay.
Like using external forces
Yeah.
for
Chemical
destruction.
warfare, cyber warfare. You're still arming yourself with whatever. Okay. Who wants to add organized groups? Hands up.
oh,
Getting a majority rules.
I guess.
Makes sense.
It's getting tight, guys. It's getting tight.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you got it. Who wants to add political Organised
Getting real tight, guys.
political groups. So that could be countries themselves, that could be governments, that could be groups within countries. Does that narrow it down a bit too much?
Wasn't organized common across all of it though? Because like,
But political would be narrowing it even
all
further.
political and organized.
Under actually political, because then if you think about like what happens here,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna learn about next with the frontier wars, you wouldn't exactly call, or when, right, stick with organised. Hands up if you want to add something about duration. Does it have to be a certain length? Like, can you have a war that lasts one day and that we count that as a war still?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, all right.
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I watched too much of a single fight. I should stop watching of a single
I
fight.
don't think length matters.
Don't think like that. What about magnitude? Like seriousness, people involved, how big it is? Does that matter? Hands up if you want to add something in about the magnitude of it. Like it has to be significant magnitude.
What the hell is that?
Okay, I think you guys are outvoted there. Sorry.
I'll go for my.
You're still
I
outvoted.
grew up with just
No, still outvoted.
I don't think it's war if there's no like nothing legal.
So, our definition of war is, and everything we learn about for the next week, I want you to have a think about, does it fit within our definition? So can someone just read out those features so I can pop into words?
fighting, brackets, not necessarily physical, ammo, booty, cold war,
Yeah,
dual more groups.
So that's
between two or more organized groups, okay? Yeah, go ahead. Do we feel like this captures? Do we feel like this captures
Boy, he keeps touching the
what
chair,
we
bro.
been talking about? Or is armed conflict, but not necessarily physical conflict between two or more organized groups? Do we need to add a purpose?
Hungry.
Or can it be for any purpose if these conditions are met? You're outvoted there. Who wants to add in something about purpose to our definition?
It has to be for the game.
Hands
So
up
many
if you want to
words.
add
Right.
for a common goal.
Because you can't have war for just like the sake of having war.
One side could be attacking.
Oh, I'm sorry, not common goal as in they both have a common goal, but the group needs to have a common goal.
Like one team needs to have.
Is that,
Because like Russia and Ukraine, Russia wanted more land.
Personal gain of like of that
but
group.
is it kind of implied that they're working towards something, right? Like,
But I'm saying organized groups that are working together.
yeah, they're
for what?
organized towards
Yeah,
something.
organized groups trying to achieve.
All right, hands up if you want to add to the end of the definition, comma, trying to achieve a specific purpose. Hands up nice and high.
With him.
Trying to achieve a specific purpose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, guys. Democracy.
Outvoted.
All right.
Nicholas would have been a good pick.
Can you please make a heading in your books, a little subheading called the Frontier Wars?
Frontier Wars.
Frontier Wars.
Frontier
Now,
Wars.
quick language warning, I believe somewhere in this video, the F word gets dropped and I can't remember when, so we're just going with it. All right?
Drop him, bro. Drop him.
That's what.
The effort's about to be dropped, guys.
All right. Can you write down under Frontier Wars, can you have a when,
Words.
a where, a who, and a why? When, where, who, and why?
Why?
This is a quick overview video, but a reminder, we are spending about a week on this topic, on conflict, war, but this is just a quick overview to get us in the zone. All right.
That vision is from today. And it happens every year on Anzac Day in our nation's capital. You see, those people are mourning lost soldiers. But unlike the rest of Australia, they have no memorial, no ceremony, nowhere to go other than a protest. Why? Well, that's a good question. What if I told you that there was a war where many, many Australians died, but it's a war you've probably never heard about? It sounds pretty insane, but it's true. Just listen to this guy speaking in Canberra at the National Press Club last week.
If we're actually genuine about remembering patriots who have died for this country, why we would not first spend $100 billion on a museum honouring the at least 65,000 estimated Indigenous dead who so tragically lost their lives defending their country here in Australia in the frontier wars of the 19th century.
Okay, you've got sort of your first little piece of information. Now, that guy was arguing about the Australian War Memorial in Canberra that was having a $100 million renovation to improve or to renovate its exhibits on international wars that Australians have fought in. And under legislation, that is the whole point of the War Memorial, is to remember and commemorate Australians who have fought overseas. And people are saying, well, why don't you have anything recognising the conflicts, the wars that have happened here? And that's what Old Mate was trying to argue.
Context. That is Richard Flanagan, one of Australia's most celebrated authors. And the $100 million museum he's talking about is the Sir John Monash Museum, opening in